They have got quite a lot of injuries, Johnny, at the moment. Luke Shaw, I think he's out. Martial is out. Wan-Bissaka is out. There's a couple of others guys as well that are out at the moment from that United team. Pogba obviously out. So if you put that full team together, then they would probably have given a far better performance than what they did yesterday. But with the energy and the positive enthusiasm of those Longstaff brothers playing together in central midfield, it seemed as though the supporters got behind the team. It seemed it galvanised the club. And I thought they were superb. Absolutely gave it everything. And that's all you can ask for.
When you're talking about that passion, it was telling that it was a local lad who'd scored that goal. We had Andy Carroll, another local lad, who rather than jumping on Matty Longstaff, just pointed at him and gave him his moment in front of the Gallagher end. And we had those three local boys celebrating together with the Newcastle faithful in big games, in tough games. How much of a difference does it make to have local boys who get what it means to the supporters?
I think it does, Johnny. Yeah, I can actually see where you're coming from on that one. And I think a lot of credit, because all the managers that we talk about always are saying, will he get the sack? Will he get the sack? Is he going to get the sack? He's got one more game, blah, 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 onwards, onwards, onwards. We hear it every day now. Back page of every newspaper, every day, someone else is going to get the sack. I think Steve Bruce has got to get an awful lot of credit for a brave move to put an 18-year-old into his debut after the performance last week when they lost, 5-0 at Leicester. It was a tremendous move to put him in. He was rewarded, and I don't think he's actually got the credit today for actually giving that boy his full league debut in Newcastle's team to get the winning goal. And it just galvanised, as I said earlier, the whole club. The stadium was absolutely buzzing every minute from start to finish with the way that they played with such great passion.
And from the United point of view, they had 68% of possession. It wasn't bad football. They were keeping it quite nicely. You've talked before about the issue of selling Lukaku and not replacing him. Is this a game where a real battering ram, a conventional centre-forward, would have let them unlock that door?
It would have certainly helped, but once you've got those many injuries, doesn't matter who your manager is, and we're seeing similar at the moment to Man City, without Vincent Kompany obviously going to Anderlecht, and then Laporte having such a serious knee injury. Laporte is a top quality player, and when he was not fit, Kompany would come in and play. And now you're seeing good players not playing for City, and they're losing their way and they're losing games. And that is the same for any team, any manager at any level. If your best players don't play, you're struggling. And to be fair to Solskjaer at Manchester United, they have got a lot of players missing and results would be affected.
Well, after the game, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer felt the need to apologise to fans for the performance and admitted that the team is a long way from where it needs to be.
Every game should be one that we should look to win at this club. But at the moment, we can't win games, especially away from home. But we got a perfect opportunity to get players back and raise our game, raise the supporters' moods with Liverpool coming up.
I completely recognise that the injuries are a big factor here, Martin, but how has a club of the size of United got to the point where its strength in depth is so shabby? Under Ferguson, if one of your stars got injured, that was a shame, but someone else brilliant would come in. If Rooney hurt his leg, you'd play Berbatov. That's not the case anymore.
No, it's certainly not. And that is not down to Solskjaer.
No, it's not.
And that has been in place now for a good few years. And they've had David Moyes, who's been a successful manager, and I think it was always going to be very, very difficult for him to take over from Sir Alex Ferguson. And then Louis van Gaal, he's a top manager. He was deemed as not good enough for Ed Woodward. And then Mourinho, one of the best and most successful managers in the world football, history of football, Champions League wins. He's been deemed not good enough. And now, you've got to say, a manager that's managed Cardiff City and Mulder has been given that job, and now the hatchet men are out for him. So where would they go from here? Who would want to take that squad on? And we spoke last week, and Guy, our producer, is such a mad Manchester United fan. and we were chatting about where they could finish, and he was talking about them being in the top 6. I don't see them being anywhere near the top 6. Even when they've got their players fit, they're not near the top 6. They need that centre forward that you're talking about, and to sell Lukaku without having a centre forward or 2 lined up to come in is absolutely scandalous.
Well, United legend Gary Neville gave his damning verdict on the way the club is being run in the aftermath of yesterday's result.
They've cocked it up. They're responsible for this. Poor recruitment, poor selection of, well, managers and then going with them and then pulling off them. Van Gaal won an FA Cup, then they sacked him. Jose Mourinho, they sacked him after 2.5 years when they'd given him a contract 6 months before. So they've pulled off managers in terms of what would be the sort of thread of it, and they've gone for completely different styles of managers in Louis van Gaal and Jose Mourinho. They've now gone with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who's taken the club in a completely different direction again. If you change direction as a board every 2 years and you invest 250 million quid along the way in each manager, you're going to have big problems. And Manchester United are basically now getting the pain that they deserve for poor decisions at board level.
I think he's spot on, Martin, but do you agree that in a funny way it wouldn't matter who was the manager under this regime? Do you think that if we brought in an Allegri, a Pochettino, a Capello, anyone to Manchester United, it would not be better than things are under Solskjaer?
There is absolutely no way top managers would want to go in there and work with those restrictions. Mourinho mentioned it on many occasions, his desire to get a centre-back in to play. Yes, some of Mourinho's signings have not been good, but without them having full say on who comes in, given a budget, and they can pick who comes in, they're nowhere near it. They are nowhere near it. They still need 4 or 5 players. They need 2 decent centre forwards, not 1 but 2, to lead the line as that number 9 up front, and somebody that can also take his place to play in other games to rest that main man. They are nowhere near it, and I cannot see, until there's changes behind the scenes above Ollie, below Ed Woodward, to take responsibility for the football, then something has to change. If not, they're just going to continue to struggle.
Well, another team who is struggling are, of course, Tottenham Hotspur. Pochettino has again talked about that importance of being given control over the transfers in and the transfers out. But the way I see it, he had that this summer, give or take. I know it all had to get ticked off by Levy, but Sessegnon was his man. He got him. He said he wanted Lo Celso potentially as a replacement for Eriksen. He kept Eriksen and he got Lo Celso. And Ndombele was definitely his man and he got him. So what's the problem?
Well, we don't know that he's got what he wanted.
Well, he got some of what he wanted.
That's not what he wanted, is it? You know, you can't. I'm not sure you can actually say, well, he's got everything he wanted, because there's several players there that are currently there that were told that they could leave and they were surplus and they weren't getting new contracts. And quite clearly, as you know, anybody would know, you tell footballers that they're not going to be in the team, that they can go and talk to Watford like Danny Rose. Vertonghen, you're not going to get a new contract. It was mentioned last week that they may give him a contract now. But last summer, why didn't they offer him a deal after the Champions League? And then when the manager comes out and says we finished 27 points behind Man City, we need serious work here on this squad. We need to freshen it up with fresh new faces. And we've seen, Johnny, over the weekend, there was some stats revealed. The same back four and goalkeeper plus Dyer 5.5 years ago is the same to what it is now and what played at Brighton on Saturday. Now, that can't be right. That can't be right. He needed to freshen that group up. Everybody knew after the Champions League he wanted to change it. And then his comment that if we'd have won, I would have left comment. That would have left a grey and clouds floating over Pochettino's intent, his thought process. Do the players want to be here? He doesn't want to be here. Does he want to go? Is he thinking of quitting? Has he been thinking of quitting? And we've got all these players, including Dyer, and then Vertonghen wasn't even in the squad for the first 2 games. He was sitting in the stand with a T-shirt on and a pair of sunglasses. I mean, something was going on there with him, without a shadow of a doubt. So there's a lot of problems going on behind the scenes there, and I think that group's been together too long and probably got a little bit stale.
I think you're right, and it's important for us all to remember that Poch is still relatively young in managerial terms. His career's in its infancy. This is the first time he's been at a club long enough for that squad to go stale. Maybe he genuinely didn't think it could happen. And is there an argument, Martin, to say this is his first crisis as a manager? And is it important that he stays and fights through it? Because ultimately, if he wants to be one of the world's best, if he wants to be an elite coach at the likes of United, at the likes of Real Madrid, then he's going to occasionally find himself in a situation where the club aren't performing, where something is going wrong, where players don't want to be there, where he does need to change things, and he is going to have to take them from bad into good. Dealing with these tough situations is surely a manager's job.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, Johnny, he was the first one to say in the summer that the team needed freshening up, the changing room needed freshening up. So it's not as if he's coming across something there that's new to him. And I think he explained publicly, so I'm sure he must have done to the chairman, Daniel Levy, that we need to change things. We need to, if we're going to catch up with Man City, we need to do some serious business in the transfer market. And the signings he made, yes, he probably did get what he wanted, but I don't think it's anywhere near what he really wanted, and that was a new back four and probably a new goalkeeper.
And he might well need a new goalkeeper now, not necessarily for the long term, but in the short term. Hugo Lloris's injury looked very, very unpleasant. How big a blow is that?
Not massive.
You don't think?
No, I thought he was at fault for 3 of those goals last week against Bayern Munich. Good finishing, but I still think he should have done better with those. I thought it was a horrendous effort, a horrendous mistake for the goal against Brighton. Just ball clipped into the goal line and he just completely dropped it before he fell over and hurt his arm. No, that was a terrible mistake in the first minute, and he'd have been very, very disappointed with himself over that. And of course, now it gives a chance to a new goalkeeper, Gazzaniga, who I sold to Tottenham from Gillingham when I was there for £400,000. So I'm sure he'll do very well.
Did he impress you at Gillingham?
Well, if you want the honest opinion, I didn't even know who he was when I got there. And he walked across the training pitch on the first day of pre-season, a nice sunny day, all the players have got new kit on, and then I saw this bloke walking across. He was about 6'5". He had this unbelievable tan and he had hair going down past his shoulders, and it was like, he looks like a male model. He looks like, oh my God. And so someone said, oh, this is Paolo. I said, oh, Paolo, how you doing, mate? And I sort of looked up. He's like crouch height. And then it was like, good to see you. And he had a pair of gloves in his hand, for the goalkeeping drill. So I realised he was probably the goalkeeper. And then he said to me, can I see you after training, Martin? So I saw him after training, and he told me that his agent was coming over to sort out this deal to go to Tottenham. So I rang the chairman, and it was only a couple of days later he went to Tottenham. But a great guy, very laid back, very tall, and the smoothest, coolest character you could ever meet.